Hello, everybody. This is Bradley Grunner, and I'm here with Stu Yellen, and we're here for the newest Moss Macros podcast. And today's episode is titled Resentment in Bodybuilding. Now, Stu, people might see this title of this podcast and think to themselves, well, resentment in bodybuilding. Well, what does resentment have to do with bodybuilding? Would you like to start off and explain the topic at hand here?
Well, it's an interesting thing. I'm sure you guys all realize, me and Brad, we talk to each other nonstop. And we also watch a lot of stuff that goes on social media and in the magazines and, all that stuff. And, I always hate to come back to the social media angle, but, it gives everyone a voice. It gives everyone a platform to speak from. And there's definitely a lot of people that will comment and talk nonstop, find every possible angle to badmouth the sport of bodybuilding, to find things that, people that do it have problems with this and problems with that, and the sport needs to be saved. And, I'd say, 9 out of 10 times the people that are commenting on it, they're existing really, if at all, on the fringe of the sport. These are not people that are looked at as bodybuilders. These are not people that have, as we're going to discuss, gotten what they probably wanted out of this pursuit that they put so much into, and it probably fosters a very negatively colored outlook on things. I'd say that sums it up pretty good.
Yes, it does. I mean, I agree with you. I am agreeing with that because my suspicion is, or my assumption is, that many of the people who are what we would call fitness writers, fitness trainers, people that are in the so-called industry, people that write ebooks, they write articles on nutrition and training. I strongly believe that what first attracted them to fitness in general, if we are going to consider bodybuilding a fitness endeavor, I believe they started out like you and I. They picked up a magazine. They saw very built, muscular bodies, said, I want to look like that. And I think that what attracted them about fitness was bodybuilding in the first place. Then they go down this road where they realize how difficult bodybuilding is, or that they might not have the structure or the shape or genes to look like a bodybuilder, at least look like a bodybuilder. And they do an about face and say, well, here's the danger of bodybuilding. Bodybuilding is not healthy. Bodybuilding is not worth it. The rewards are not worth it for the sacrifice. Now, having gone through only one contest prep myself and seeing the grueling process behind it, I'm not going to pat myself on the back and say I'm the world's foremost natural bodybuilder. However, I have gotten a good taste of just how grueling and difficult a prep is, and I believe that it is not for the majority of people. I personally don't even know how I got through it. And I believe that when the tough gets going, they say to themselves, well, gee, this is not healthy. I can't hack it. So instead of hacking it, or let's say not hacking it, they'll say, well, this is bad, and now I'm going to bash it. Now I'm realizing how difficult it was. I couldn't get into it. I couldn't do a show myself, so let me just bash it. I'll talk about that there's no reward from it. Well, at least no materialistic reward. We'll say that they'll start saying that it is mostly gay-oriented. They will just ridicule it in every fashion that they can do it. You've seen this, obviously, right?
Oh my God, I see it every time. Look, we made kind of a list of, headings of topics of groups of people that we could kind of narrow down what we really see. You talk about, do I see it? Like you can't go on any fitness-related website without reading things by various coaches or, and I'm going to use this term, fitness writers. I love fitness writers.
Yes.
I've seen interviews, quote unquote, done with me. People who are claiming, we interviewed WNBF pro Stu Yellen. No, you didn't. And they just lift information from various other interviews I've done years ago.
Right.
This is what a fitness writer does.
Yes.
They hunt on information and they present it in a way that makes it sound like they're actually educated. And then they're not. They're not.
Yes.
And these are people that they're not bodybuilders, they're not athletes, they're writers. They are writers. They do. And usually there is some interest in fitness on their own part, or at least there was back in the day, to stay with something, I guess, the years that you invest in something like this. At a certain point, you come to the realization that, like you said, either I'm not cut out for this, or I'm never going to look like I want to. So, you start focusing on the negatives. And, as you're pointing out, you don't go into bodybuilding for monetary rewards. There aren't any.
Right.
There aren't any. And it's the kind of thing where when you are setting a goal for yourself, obviously it's some kind of intrinsic value. You go what you have to do to achieve it, and there's a feeling of satisfaction when it's all over. It doesn't make your wallet any fatter, but if it's worthwhile to you, then it has meaning, and no one else can tell you that it doesn't. If someone has never accomplished a goal like that, then it's very, very hard to get them to understand why that's so important to you, as they're trashing it, as they're casually dismissing it.
Right, but the ones that are trashing it because there's no monetary gains are ones that actually have competed in it or have claimed to compete in it, meaning that they'll say, well, I tried it, I didn't like it, I realized how tough it was, although they're going to imply how tough it was, do an about face, and then start bashing it. But my view as an adult now is this, is that doing my first show at 37 years old, I would like to do another show in my life, but there are many responsibilities that are going to be coming up in my life, being that I'm in my late 30s. I want to do another show in the future. However, by the time I already did my first show, which was recently, I already know what bodybuilding is by now, meaning that there's no material reward. It's grueling. It's gut-wrenching. There's sacrifice. You have to miss out on things. You have to structure your life in a way that you can be dedicated to it. My question to the other people who are bashing is basically, well, what did you expect? You were already a grown man by the time you entered your show. What were you thinking? What were you thinking? You knew there was getting money. What did you think? Getting down to 5 to 7% body fat, stage ready, was going to be easy? What do you think? That you were going to have a nice fed tummy and good night's sleep and take care of the rest of your life and have a great time with it the entire time?
Well, dude, think about those old Weider magazines.
Yes.
You saw Flex Wheeler posing in front of a Lamborghini that we didn't realize at the time wasn't his.
Yes.
Posing in front of a house that he's rich. He's got a Weider contract. The house wasn't his. It's the reality of it, and this is gonna sound horrible, but people that cling to this, this bodybuilding is gonna make everything in my life great. They lack a healthy perspective. They lack an understanding of what this can do for you and what it can't. I've known plenty of competitors over the years that are, I hate to say this, broke, really living hand to mouth.
Yes.
Thinking that, well, if I just win this night, no, that's not what's going to make your life freaking better.
Right, but even in the top tier of bodybuilding, let's say if we talk about the top tier even now, we're not seeing the same type of contracts or sponsorships that we saw in the past. At least I don't think they're out there anymore. I think they're maybe if a guy is very entrepreneurial and industrious, he can make a following for himself and make his own brand. But are we ever going to see the contracts that Weider or Metrics gave out in the past, like high 5-figure, low 6-figure contracts that they once had? I don't think so. I don't think that is available anymore.
I think social media killed that.
Right.
They totally killed that. You have all these, quote, sponsored athletes where they're basically doing the work for these supplement companies just to be able to call themselves a sponsored athlete. Well, dude, no one's going to pay you anything because people are so ego-driven and really just I hate to use the word attention whore, but they are.
Right. Well, that is a reason as well, because now if the pool is so wide for people to work for free or work for almost free, a supplement company is going to see no need to sponsor someone for 6 figures a year. I mean, that's what happens when a labor pool is multiplied exponentially. Mm-hmm. It's watered down. You don't have to pay people. We might have to pay people almost nothing, and now they're paying them nothing. They just want to call themselves a sponsored athlete, which is fine. And if you want to take on that role, that is fine. But it's simply not out there, the financial reward of many endeavors of this, unless you're, like we've said, very industrious, very determined, because there are plenty of guys on YouTube and social media and writing ebooks and personal training people writing diets, but that's on them, meaning that they're developing their own business. And very few people who have been able to pull that off successfully. The ones who have pulled it off they're not trashing bodybuilding. I don't think so. Now, but to go over it, not to belabor it, is that we saw that there was, let's say, this so-called lifestyle, this so-called glamorous lifestyle of that we saw in the magazines on the tail end of the 90s and early 2000s, perhaps. Well, not even the 2000s, most likely the 90s and 80s. If you look at these old magazines of this lifestyle, when there was or isn't a lifestyle that we thought was there. But what are the people that we're talking about? They're grown men, though. My last question, to be repetitive a little bit, is by the time you're over 18 years old, I really think that the person who was getting into this realized, I'm prepping for a show, but I'm not going to get a material award around it. Maybe I should just do it, get some fun out of it. What's the point of me ripping on it after the fact? I will never rip on what I did because I loved what I did. I loved every minute of it. I loved every day of it. And I had a full-time job. I still have that job. I'm still employed, and I took it for what it's worth. And that's it. And which brings us around to these fitness celebrities, or as we like to call them on the internet, in the I guess the darker side of the internet, the more funny side of the internet, the fitness celeries.
Let's admit, come on, they're not celebrities. No one gives a crap. No one gives a crap.
But however, some of them happen to be doing well. The ones who are doing well are not making fun of bodybuilding. In fact, they are very involved in bodybuilding. I would say the Hodge twins, from what I've known, are actually showing up to bodybuilding expos, and some of their followings at the booths, the lines in which people are waiting for them are longer than the pro bodybuilders line. So those guys are not ripping on bodybuilding because, well, they never really got involved into a way that they were competing, and they have no resentment towards it because they've managed to capitalize on the activity of bodybuilding. But you will never find the Hodge twins really bashing bodybuilding. It's people like Jason Blaha who are bashing bodybuilding in every video that they make. For example, even Lane Norton will expose the darker side of bodybuilding. The darker side meaning that, he even said in a recent video talking about life balance that getting shredded to 5 to 7% on stage condition is really no joke. It is not a joke. The effects of getting that lean, what goes into it is actually, experiencing it could be kind of disturbing to oneself, actually. Would you use the word disturbing? That's what I use.
You have to be a sane person to deal with that.
Yes.
We were talking last week, me and Brad, we were talking about mental toughness.
Yes.
And mental toughness doesn't mean, ooh, you dieted, pat yourself on the back, you're a badass, release an Instagram comment every single day, patting yourself on the back, I'm tough, I'm an alpha male, I'm, basically anything Paul Carter writes. Mental toughness is dealing with that and not killing the coworkers at your real job.
Yes.
Because no one cares that you're hungry. No one cares that you have to go to the gym later.
Yes.
No one cares because it's a luxury. You're choosing to do that.
Yes.
Mental toughness is fitting it in. Mental toughness is not, I went to the gym. Stop it. You sound like a child.
Yes.
Okay? That's tough. That's tough. And most people can't do it. And when you get a guy like Jason Blaha, I don't want to always trash Blaha. It's just so easy because every time he opens up his mouth, he's just full of crap.
But he's one of the most foremost people who make fun of bodybuilding.
Here's a guy who pretends he was a bodybuilder, and let's face it, all the proof burned up in a fire except for these 2 photos. You know what? I've been judging shows for like the last 5 years. Those photos that exist of him and his what are they, like burgundy panties, like with the bad posing and just no conditioning and the symmetry's off. Dude, you know what? He's not big. He's not cut. He's not anything that I would go, that guy's a bodybuilder. I look at it and I say, there's a fat guy standing in his underwear trying to suck his gut and have a very poor bicep shot. There's a guy who couldn't be a bodybuilder. So he's built an entire channel around finding things that are wrong with bodybuilders, that are wrong with bodybuilding.
Yes.
That are and dude, that's that's pathetic. That's resentment.
Right.
That is the I don't know, could you be any more resentful than that, than when every single thing you are doing, every single video, every single diatribe, every single rant, every single, pretending to be referencing studies, is attacking the one thing that you would have loved more than anything else to have accomplished. But you know that you couldn't.
Right. That brings up a different point also, exactly, is that not only that he's bashed bodybuilding, the actual getting ready for bodybuilding shows and being involved in bodybuilding, he tags all bodybuilders, even in a recent video, stating that the term straight bodybuilder is an oxymoron. And then he made a joke saying, there must be 5 straight bodybuilders on Earth. Well, he knows that's not true, but he's making a generalization about it. Not that there's anything wrong with being a homeless.
And you know what? It's based on nothing. Based on nothing. Let me tell you something. There are no pro bodybuilders talking to this guy.
Yes.
There are no amateur bodybuilders talking to this guy. Because anyone who knows anything about bodybuilding, training, diet, nutrition, like anything, anyone who's gotten any kind of success from doing things correctly, realizes that everything this guy says is wrong.
Right.
So why would you talk to this guy? Especially, why would you share anything with this guy that would make you look bad, that would make the sport you love look bad, that would help him out at your expense?
Right, exactly. And also, I think that I find that very rude to both homosexuals and bodybuilders, regardless of the sexual orientation, because it's almost as if he's saying there's something wrong and that he detests homosexuality, and then he's going to go further and use it as an insult to bodybuilders with that resentment towards them. You know what I'm trying to say? Meaning that, with the resentment towards homosexuals and bodybuilders, it's a very just distasteful thing to say in general. And then he also bashes the actual bodybuilding training which produces results, meaning that he, like we said, he bashes split routines, he bashes pre-exhaust, he bashes a lot of isolation training. He said that he does not against isolation exercises, but he always finds this way to just bash everything about bodybuilding, the application of the way most or nearly all bodybuilders train. We'll get into that later as well. And then he'll say the most common one, and disregarding Blaha here, we should also mention this one as well, is that, again, with the monetary reward, I do not understand that, because many people do things for recreation and entertainment that are not for reward, meaning that when someone watches Walking Dead or Breaking Bad or invests hours in watching sports or television series that I've just mentioned, there's no money in that either. So if I spend 2 hours in the gym at night versus 2 hours of watching TV, there's no monetary reward in either one of them. So why is one of them worthy of resentment or worthy of such critique? Criticism, rather. That's what I don't get either, though.
But again, it's a sour grapes thing. It's a sour grapes thing. And, the YouTube idiots.
Yes.
Again, it's just like the fitness writers.
Yes.
Again, and we said this before. At some point, they were drawn to this. At some point, they thought maybe they were going to do something like that. And again, look, there are some very well-known and respected, coaches that you see online that, write for different web forums, have their own websites, and this and that. And they'll talk about how they competed in the past.
Yes.
And maybe occasionally you'll see like a photo or two of them. But you know what you'll never see? You'll never see a photo of them in an actual contest lineup.
Yes.
You will never see how they stack up with the other people. You know why? Because, and we say this about IFBB pros. Oh, the Olympia's coming up, and, Heath looks great, but Kai's looking good too. And, well, what's always said? Everyone looks good by themselves.
Yes.
Everyone looks good by themselves. Carter did a contest. You're never going to see a photo of that lineup.
I didn't see the photo of the lineup on the Instagram.
You're never going to see it.
Right, exactly.
I know you were telling me earlier. I know you love Carter. Well, he took second. Okay. And I'm not saying this is true. Were there 2 people in this class? Are we never going to see that?
Right. I don't know.
Because again, and I sound like a dick saying this. Because if you took second out of 2, you could put it on your site. Yeah, I took second and it was tough. Or you could say, yeah, I finished last.
Exactly. I mean, I have no problems. Again, I think I'm a good example. Not that I'm a self-aggrandizing person or I don't have elite genetics either. Is that I really only did one show so far, and I won a pro card in a growing, but still relatively. Would you say AMBF is a small organization? Is a growing organization?
Oh, it's definitely small.
It's smaller, yes.
But you beat people.
Yes, and I have no problem showing who I've beaten it. Now, when I compete as a pro in my organization, do I have any delusions of coming first? No, I just want to be in the show. Just like when I entered the show, what I wanted from my show was to be a bodybuilder, period. That's it. I wasn't expecting to place. I wasn't expecting for bodybuilding to give me something extraordinary. I wanted to be a bodybuilder, and that's what I became. I became a bodybuilder. I stepped on a stage. You could see my Instagram page, what I did, at Mas Macros. MASMACROS, and I had a blast with it. I didn't expect anything out of it further than that. It was a great time with my friends and family afterwards, and I always was following bodybuilding since I'm a teenager. I just wanted to be part of the club. I finally wanted to, say I'm a bodybuilder. That's it. I wasn't expecting anything, and I loved it. And I just happened to get a good outcome from it. Now,
so you didn't build it up in your head. You knew it was just a personal goal for yourself.
Yes.
It wasn't going to change your life. Your coworkers weren't going to give a shit.
Right, exactly.
You're not going to walk down the street and people are going to go, wow, that's Brad. He's a bot. No,
exactly.
Like, people don't care.
Right. They were entertained by it to a degree because it's different. They think I have an attractive body, but it's nothing extraordinary.
So you think, I know I certainly think the people that build this up too much, that think it's really going to change their life,
yes,
they come away bitter. Look, I've written on Instagram many, many times, if you're expecting this to change your life, if you can't be objective, if you can't maintain perspective, you're going to be nothing but unhappy with this sport. You're going to walk away angry and full of hate.
Right. Which leads us to another category of people also is that there are these what we call researchers, right? And this is who Blaha likes to quote, and only people like to quote, research. I know of these researchers.
I don't know if Blaha actually quotes any research. He just says what we've learned, like he's the guy in the lab coat.
But sometimes he'll refer to like people like Eric Helms or Lyle McDonald or Alex Viada.
Helms, a pro, natural pro.
Respected,
but he's the walk.
Right.
Been on stage. I don't know. Did he get his PhD? I know he was going for it.
He PhD, I believe. Yeah.
Very, very well researched, very well read, very well spoken, very, very educated individual.
Right, but even me is that I'm a registered dietitian with a master's in nutrition and exercise physiology. I have an undergraduate degree in dietetics. Now, those credentials are really, to me, only helpful as far as seeking full-time employment in clinical dietetics, whether it be me working in a hospital or in a nursing home. I work in a nursing home right now with a subacute care as well, dietetics. Now, those credentials have been useful to me in terms of my profession. Do I really pay attention to so-called research in order to get a more built body? I think that we've learned from research. We've learned what ketogenic diets do. We learned what low carb does. We've learned, other aspects of nutrition. We have to have some academic knowledge of nutrition in order to apply to us. But do I really care after a while what research shows us or researchers say? My contest prep that you helped me with was not a science experiment. It wasn't like the most convoluted thing on earth. When people mention all these researchers, I don't know how much weight to put into it at this point. There's just a formula for getting ready for a contest prep. It doesn't vary that much from person to person. After a while, the academic knowledge has a certain point. We don't need it anymore, I think. It's just the application. But, you'll see this resentment even amongst these so-called researchers like Lyle McDonald, who have a lot of, maybe he doesn't really have disrespect for bodybuilders, Lyle, but you could see the anger in his tone. And this is someone who, if you look in the past, has photos of him doing all these experiments with ketogenic dieting and trying to implement the body opus diet that Dan Duchesne. So at one point he loved this. At one point, really involved, and then eventually devolved into this really angry dude on the fringes of the so-called sport or industry. Could that be also? I'm not accusing him of this, but the guy was trying to be something. The guy was trying to recompose his body in those photos I've seen on there. What happened? You know what I'm saying?
Well, it's a very interesting thing as far as the researchers. Researchers love to allude to the fact that the bodybuilders don't know the tiniest little bits of information.
Right.
This new study says that. Okay, then I guess, everything I'm doing to put on muscle and get ripped, which has worked over and over and over and over and over and over again, didn't really work.
See, that's
we imagined that.
Right. See, now that might be resentment to a degree, but they're still criticism. They're still giving that unrelenting criticism that a bodybuilder is this goon who never progresses in weights, never so-called adds weight to the bar, and that split routines are not worthless, but they give you slower progress. Mm-hmm. They don't produce the sort of, again, these buzzwords, protein synthesis that a full body or upper lower split could give you, that pre-exhaust is worthless, that you should not do multiple exercises per body because just one or two done once or twice, twice or three times per week is the way to go. and that a bodybuilder doesn't know what he's doing, or if he knows what he's doing now, it's not how he trained before. He's just maintaining his muscle mass in the split routine because of all the effective stuff he did before. When you and I know that split routine real training really is modern bodybuilding training, and we can't find one natural pro. Well, we can find some maybe, but the vast majority, what would you say, 90+% of pros are doing split routines?
You know,
Yes.
One thing I learned when I was competing is that, the more people I would meet, amateurs, pros, I'd say that 99% of them were doing the exact same thing.
Yes.
And let's look at these researchers. And again,
Right.
I always feel bad saying something that's harsh and biting,
Yes.
but they all look like crap. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Look, we could see Alan Aragon posted a photo the other day.
Yes.
Where he had some veins. Dude, that's great. You had some sodium with your meal. You don't look like a bodybuilder. And look, I respect Alan. He writes some good stuff. Just like I respect Brad Schoenfeld. And, the first time I saw an article by Brad, and there was the whole byline of his history competing as a bodybuilder, not impressive. Like not impressive. Now, pause for a moment, okay? These are the guys who, they know everything.
Right.
But really, what are the chances that, and this is biting, and I'm sorry if I upset people with this, what are the chances that every single researcher who decides to delve into anything fitness or nutrition related and how it relates to developing muscle and losing fat, what are the chances that every single one of them has poor genetics? What are the chances?
Right.
It's ridiculous.
Exactly. And the thing is also, that's an interesting point also is that I do think it's kind of resentment because by saying that we're doing things wrong, despite the results, and then always trying to find this nuance that is ineffective, meaning that, well, the reason why the guy succeeded on a split routine is because his genes are great, or the reason why he looks good now is because he's not telling you what he did before he did this split routine. You know where I'm going with that? I mean that.
Oh, there's always an out.
It's kind of rude. It's like,
yes,
it's rude because wait a minute, you're saying everything I'm doing is asinine, but it's producing results for people over and over and over again. Mm-hmm. So what is your gripe with it? And then it also paints the picture, as I said before, of bodybuilders not knowing what they're doing. Mm-hmm. Why is this even an issue? What is the point of this? And then you ask yourself, well, with this guy's methods, did he produce, regardless of a client's genetics, regardless of someone that he coaches genetics, did he take a guy, whether he was of elite genetics or average genetics, and improve him? Have any of these researchers done that and showed it, saying, here's a guy who's elite and was having some problems, this is what I did for him. Here's a guy who was an average guy, and over the course of 1 year, despite this guy's average genetics, we packed on 5 pounds of muscle, we brought his chest up, we brought his lats up. Have they produced that? I don't see them producing that regardless of the client's genetics.
I did.
Well, you did that for me. You did that for me, but
what if we took a guy who qualified for the Olympia and we had him train with gymnastic rings?
Okay. And he might regress as well. and for example, that might be the so-called correct way to train. But obviously, if it's not producing results, it's not the correct way to train. And now let's go over this, is that, just as an aside before we get into the next topic of resentment, is that, isn't it fair to say that the guys who are actually bodybuilding authors, not fitness writers, mm-hmm. not guys who go on a recomp and discover fitness, which is great too. It's great to have a love of fitness. Tom Venuto, Clay Height, Scott Abel, even John Romano, who had a pretty good physique back in the day. Yeah. These guys are not guys, or even other guys who have some experience with it. Oscar Arden, maybe not a famous writer, but like guys that are kind of behind the scenes training bodybuilders, not on the Mr. O stage. They don't have the genetics. Fakhri Mubarak. I just said Oscar Arden, Chris Aceto, who's written books as well.
Yeah, dude, Aceto competed back in the day. You ever seen a photo of him?
Yes,
he looked great.
Yes, and he looked very good. These are guys who are on the inside of the industry. Mm-hmm. Not Mr. O competitors. I think that maybe Fakhri Mubarak, was he up there with the 212 Mr. O? I don't know. He looked great.
I think he was before the 212.
Okay.
Yeah, it's going back, man. I don't remember.
Well, I don't really know his history, but he looked like he could be on a 212 stage. But besides that,
if Arash were here, he would know.
Yes, exactly. Although Fakhri Mubarak said that he had calves that look like there were little kids hiding in there.
Yeah, I saw him at a Japanese restaurant.
Exactly.
It was like the freakiest thing.
Exactly.
He was wider than he was tall.
Right, and even Palumbo. Now, Palumbo, we could say his expertise is kind of
supplement related?
Varied. However, Palumbo has competed. Palumbo looked like a freak. You know what I'm saying? Whether it's Tom Venuto, who's natural, or Clay Height, who have more, realistic physiques, natural probably.
You think so?
Yeah, Tom Venuto.
Well, not Venuto, Clay.
Clay Height is pretty good physique, I think. And
that's not all right.
Okay, I don't know though. I don't know that. What I'm saying is that you'll get Scott Abel, whatever. You'll see the guys who are preaching hardcore bodybuilding training look like bodybuilders. They're not into this whole frequency thing and protein synthesis, and everything is about protein synthesis. That's really what makes a difference. Even John Meadows, whatever league he's in, he preaches what bodybuilders do, and he's in the thick of things. He's not a researcher. He's not a fitness writer. He's a bodybuilding writer. And they walk the walk, and they give the information that produces the results to look like a bodybuilder. Mm-hmm. And now let's go on to this. Is that, let's say someone that you and I are fond of, let's move on, is that John Romano, right? In a recent article, he actually doesn't sound resentful at all. There was an article written somewhere about bodybuilding, of where it's headed, and should someone compete, should they not compete?
Well, there have also been like several articles. Several articles. What are they saying? Does bodybuilding need to be saved?
Yes, or if you had another article that was written was that if you had a young one, would you urge them into competing?
Yeah.
Now, some of the statements were quite negative. Negative as far as the sacrifice or.
Well, a lot of the people commenting on that had never competed themselves.
Yes, never competed. Yeah, well, one of them never competed actually. One of them competed, but stated that he was miserable for the whole time, and also on his prep, all the joy of his life was sucked out of him. Now I can see that, because when I was prepping on that very harsh prep to get to a very lean state, I must tell you, I think this is useful as well. It is useful because I was not resentful towards the process, even though it felt horrible at times. It felt horrible, even though I loved the process. But as far as, by the way, Vegan Gains is another fitness celery who tried to do bodybuilding, and also said that he was suffering from depersonalization, depression, and just overall feeling mentally miserable, physically and mentally on the prep, right?
Was he following a vegan plan?
I'm not sure if he was a vegan then.
Because you tried that.
I tried that once.
That was hysterical.
Yeah, I know, it was hysterical. We'll talk about that one day, actually. My 6-week venture into veganism for 6 weeks that I tried last year.
Arash has to be there for that one, because me and Arash were laughing so hard.
Exactly. Although I was not crazy enough to do a prep on a vegan diet, because I think I would have become suicidal by that point with how bad I felt physically and mentally. Now, it does relate to this. It does relate, even though we're kind of going in a scattered direction here, is that despite feeling physically and mentally terrible at times, I did not have resentment towards bodybuilding. I understood that on the days that I felt especially terrible, that this was part of the process. So I was not going to bash bodybuilding, even though bodybuilding is very harsh on the body and the mind. Yep. Now, Vegan Gains said that he was depersonalized. Guess what, folks? I was depersonalized. For lack of a better words, and part of my French, I thought I was losing my fucking mind on this prep. I was calling Stu up on some days as if I was confessing in the church or something, like forgive me, Father, I've sinned. Like, there was a day I needed off from the gym. Like, how many times did it happen where I needed a day off? Like, I was overworked.
Oh my God, you felt like, seriously, I've had such guilt. And how did I react? I was like, okay, need a day, that's fine. Yes. No, but really, and you would just keep going on. Like, Matt, it's okay.
Yes.
Just go home, take a nap.
I mean, there were times where I don't know what, I was losing my mind from the lack of calories and overwork and lack of sleep, that I was professing my love to my wife,
in case you died.
Yeah, in case I die tonight and I don't wake up. I mean, that's how lousy you can feel in a prep. The insomnia and the sleep deprivation from the low blood sugar and low calories, your body keeps awakening in the middle of the night. It's a topic for a whole other discussion. The take home here is that despite it being hard to get in that condition, I don't resent bodybuilding. I loved every day of it, looking back on it. The show was one of the most memorable days of my life, and I'm thankful to everybody that was there. I'm thankful to the AMBF organizer, Ken Burley, everybody. So I'm not going to rip on it. So let's just go to someone like John Romano, who knows what it is and been involved from the beginning. Not the beginning, but he's been involved for a long time.
The beginning of anabolics coming into this
Well,
country
the
from Mexico.
not the big the anabolics were there, but the whole new wave of using them and
Wow, dude,
other.
come on. We could do a whole thing on him and Duchesne. And,
Yes, the
you know,
whole
everything
he
kind of
was
comes
there
in
for
here.
the whole new wave of I believe from what I've read. I
Yeah.
mean, before he came to the scene, 60s and 70s, the drugs were there. I don't know.
Well, they were
much.
legal.
Yeah, they were legal, and I think that maybe some people say that the drug stacks then were conservative. I don't know what the hell that term means anymore.
I think people had a healthy fear of them.
A healthy fear, but then you'll read these articles or confessions by people like that guy Pete Grimkowski, who's like, I just took a bottle and I just swallowed the guy. You know those wild tales by people like him, or like people saying in the 70s people were using huge dosages in the 80s and early 80s and 70s. But let's just say that the 80s is when the introduction of growth hormone, the introduction of thyroid, the introduction of, maybe my dates are off. Maybe they came in later, maybe they came earlier. But I knew it was
I remember. I know. In Bob Harris's book, he
Yeah.
talked about growth hormone being the new big thing.
the new big thing, or let's say when was insulin the new big thing? I don't know,
I don't
90s,
know.
who knows, right? But that's the new wave. 80s, early 90s. That's when people really start to see these huge off-season body weights of Dorian Yates at 300 pounds. Towards the early 90s, or these really heavy body weights, even on stage weight. Lee Haney competing at 230. Now, I don't know what the hell Lee Haney took, but, dude, 5'11", 230, he right shredded to the bones. These were new bodies. You know what I'm
No,
saying?
he was eating his Wheaties.
But these were new.
Wait, where's he from? He's from Atlanta. I'm thinking of wait, what kind of stereotypical Atlanta food is? I got nothing.
It's not that far down south. I mean, was
Is
he,
it? I know Ronnie was big with the grits.
Yeah, well, was he eating?
I had to try grits because of Ronnie.
Oh yeah, well, I don't know if he was eating his collard greens or or southern, what is that? Southern fried steak is what it is.
No, was
With
it
the,
Denny's? Was the chicken fried steak?
Yeah, with the country gravy on it.
That was good, man.
Maybe Lee Haney was
I
getting
used to go to Denny's all the time when I was in college.
maybe
Some good stuff.
Okay, maybe Lee Haney was benefiting from that. Who knows?
Yeah, it's totally anabolic. That white gravy.
I'd say it's anabolic considering each plate is about 1,500 calories. Anabolic for not only muscle but fat as well. But anyway, Romano started bringing up all this new information with Dan Duchesne, and I think that Romano, what he said, although we don't know if all these supplements are healthy to take, I think that Romano has the healthy mental outlook on it.
Well,
Yes.
dude, all right. Everyone else talking about this bodybuilding needs to be saved. These people are not, the articles that you
Yes.
and I reference. And
Yes.
again, I know we kind of tiptoe around things a lot because,
Yes.
we both of us, we read a lot of things online. We talk to a lot of people. We don't want to,
We have
throw them under the
friends
bus.
that
right?
do stuff.
But most of the people talk about bodybuilding needs to be saved. They're not bodybuilders.
You see, that's the thing.
They've never been in a major show. They've never trained anyone for the Olympia. They've never, it's like these are not the people that can really give you the insight. Look, they're not much better off than Jason Blaha talking about most
Right.
bodybuilders. You don't know. You don't know. Stop it. Okay.
Right.
Romano, his outlook is, look, this is what it is. Bodybuilding has always had this element attached to it. Bodybuilding has
Yes.
always had this. Bodybuilding has always had no money. And you know what? It still draws people to it. It still draws people.
Yes.
Look, when you were doing your prep, something I always said was, what do you want to get out of this?
Right, exactly.
And that's the question that people really need to ask themselves. If you think I'm going to get fame and fortune out of getting in shape, seriously, find something else to do.
Right. And not only that, not only being unfortunate, let's go back to the prep aspect, because that's been mentioned also in the resentment aspect of it, also how unhealthy it can be towards the end of it. Let's just face it that, overwork combined with caloric deprivation, combined with undersleeping.
What do you think's going to happen? You'll feel great?
And not only that, you and I, you competed for several years. I competed once. We also had the full-time job. Now, add all that up. Add a full-time job up. Errands of life, chores of life, social events on weekends sometimes, plus the overwork. You didn't have the luxury of I'm tired. I'm going to go back to sleep at 12 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm going to, I want to take a nap. Or you didn't have that luxury, and I didn't have the luxury either. I mean, that if you were underslept and went through the workday, there's no backing out of the workout at night.
Nope.
Now, if you add all that together, you are going to feel unhealthy. You're not going to be happy all the time. You might be proud of yourself, But I don't think that you should start I think it'd be I don't think that it would be congruent to bash bodybuilding because of what it's doing to your body and mind. You should go into this as an adult. My view is this, though, is that you've heard me say this before. You play, you pay.
Yeah.
In some form or another. Whether you are the winner or not, you are going to pay with this. And if you are going to go the assisted route, you're going to have to pay in other ways as well.
Well, you never know.
You're going to pay financially. You're going to pay.
Well, I thought we were talking like
no, in any form,
medical stuff. Look,
you can play medically as well. You might
look at Flex Wheeler, right? The guy had kidney replaced.
Yes,
and supposedly, and I was just reading this online the other day. I don't know how accurate this is. He's planning on making a comeback.
Yes,
and you got people saying, "Okay, if I was the guy from his church who donated a kidney to save Flex, now that he's found God and regrets all the stuff he did to his body." I'd say, give me my damn kidney back.
Right, exactly. No, I meant pay in other ways also. I meant pay financially.
Oh, yeah.
Pay socially.
Sure.
Pay medically as well sometimes. Pay with your health at times. So my view is the same view as Romano is that, okay, we're grown men here. Mm-hmm. At a certain point, you shouldn't be that naive to things. You shouldn't be, a 30-year-old man walking around saying, I'm going to take an abundance of anabolic drugs. Mm-hmm. I'm going to take up bodybuilding, not CrossFit and not elite athletics, and I'm going to bitch after because I was not compensated for it. I don't think that a grown man should have that attitude.
I don't either.
Right. So that's why I think that Romano understands that, hey, this is a cult that we all love. It's a subculture that gave a lot of joy for all of us. I mean, we can think of all the positives that we've gotten out of it. Even before I did a show, I was already getting positives from developing my body and meeting all kinds of interesting people and going to the New York Pro every year. That's one of the highlights of my spring.
Interesting people?
Yeah, interesting people. I made my closest friends from the gym. So there was a lot of benefits to this, you know what I'm saying? I met some very nice, caring people from it, and also a lot of people who are resentful towards bodybuilding. That's a whole other topic also. Think that everybody or nearly everybody in bodybuilding is a basket case? No, they're not basket cases. Haven't we met from some very successful moral people? I mean, everybody's thinking that every bodybuilder is just this nutcase, immoral person who's doing all kinds of shady activities and involved in all kinds of illegal activities. The resentful people say that.
Well, dude, look, you pop on the news. What do they tell you? They want to tell you bad, scary stuff.
Yes,
that's how you get people to tune in. So you get a guy like Blaha who hasn't had a real job in 20 years.
Yes.
Trying to get people to tune into his channel, so he's got to feed them all these stories that he knows nothing about firsthand himself.
Right. Now, I think that even especially in natural bodybuilding, you and I do actually pretty much every natural bodybuilder that you and I know or are very close with live relatively normal lives. They have a wife or they have a serious girlfriend or a wife. They have a profession or they're going to school. Mm-hmm. They all realize that bodybuilding is not going to be prosperous financially for them. They're pretty, I would say decent people. Are they saints? I mean, who's a saint? I'm not a saint, but they have a pretty level head. They abide by rules and laws. I don't see anything wrong with them per se. I guess that maybe there was this streak in the IFBB or people who are really gunning to be an IFBB pro who, I don't know, I guess just too lazy or irresponsible to show up to a full-time job and go other ways. But I really don't see that common as people would say. I would thought it was common because I was young and naive. But then if you look at it like people like Stan Efferding or Jay Cutler, or not even at the top of Jay Cutler, like let's say someone like Mark Dugdale who has his own business. I mentioned Stan Efferding, who made sure that he was financially secure before he spent all this time in powerlifting and bodybuilding, or even someone like John Meadows, who made a transition from being involved in the banking and financial world until he started making a full-time living as a coach. I mean,
see, but he knew not to leave his job.
Yes,
he had a wife, he has kids. It's like come on, would you bank everything on? All right, I think I could somehow turn standing in a tiny pair of panties in front of strangers into a full-time income. Come on. I think how ridiculous that sounds.
Right, exactly. What I'm making here is examples that are there people who do gay for pay activities? Are there people who deal drugs? Are there people who, basically that's really what the let's face it here, folks, that's really what the side businesses of some bodybuilders has been.
Look, you want to dig up the seedy stuff, and we're not saying everyone does that.
No, I don't think everybody does it.
But you hear about you hear about the weird stuff,
right? But the people who are resentful generalize to the point where you think that every bodybuilder is like that, or nearly all of them, and I don't think it's nearly all of them.
No,
I don't think it's most of them.
I can't imagine that. Well, look, you've got people writing articles saying, "Oh, every natural bodybuilding show is not natural."
I don't know where that came from.
I don't know where that came from either. Are some people beating tests? Yeah, probably.
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah, come on, but that's like every sport.
Right, it is like that for every sport. But the thing is, what I don't like is that I don't mind generalizations, because generalizing does have the place in this world. It has a place in your life. It has a place in conversation. It has a place in academia. I mean, generalizations. I know we live in this world where you got to individualize everything and treat everybody as an individual. However, someone like me, as you know, generalizes too. But there's a point where generalizing becomes ridiculous as well. I mean, there is people who are resentful are only focusing on what they perceive as bad. When you and I know that there are some naturals who have been natural for life, they're just natural for life. Then to say that all these natural bodybuilders are filled with all these people who are test cheaters, cheating polygraph tests and cheating urinalysis, that's also ridiculous. It's ridiculous to think that everybody in every natural show is natural, but it's also ridiculous to think that there's not a good amount of people who never touch a drug at all. Both ways are ridiculous ways of thinking. And naive.
Well, dude, it comes back to the whole, I can't look like that clean.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
No one can.
Which brings us up also to this wishy-washy mental masturbation. Like, for example, when they mention the fat-free mass index and this hang-up that Blaha and other people have with the fake natty thing. Are there fake naturals out there? A fake natural at this point, I believe, is someone who's defined like this. A guy who's not natural, who says he's natural. That's the definition of a fake natty now. Now, why do you think there's this fixation on calling out the fake natties? You and I knew a long time ago that this fake natty thing before YouTube, there were plenty of fake natties in there. We already knew who the fake natties were. But why is there this fixation on it? Why make entire videos and then say, you can only reach a fat-free mass index with 10% below body fat? You have to be below an FMI of 26. And this guy, look, I plugged into the calculator. He's not a real natural. This fixation, the fixation on it shows resentment, though. The person they call out might indeed be a fake natty. But isn't it funny how the guys who are resentful focus on this? If you're really having fun in the gym and doing your own thing, I could see some bitching. Stu and I do some bitching. We do some gossiping. We do that right here. But are we really fixated on it? Are we fixated on it?
At the end of the day, I don't think we give a shit what anyone else is doing.
Yeah, I don't really give a shit.
That's like this. The world would be a much better place if people just worried about their own shit.
Right, but let's say I can't reach an FMI of 26 naturally or not, right? Well, let's say I can. How is that going to impact my training thinking of this? Meaning that, let's say 26 is that limit, this number that they have from that one study done by that guy, Dr. Harrison Pope, on 1960s bodybuilders, whatever the hell that study was that everybody likes to quote for the FMI, right? Mm-hmm. If the limit is 26 and I can't reach it, how is that going to serve me trying hard in the gym either way? Am I going to go to the gym thinking of this goddamn number? You know what I'm trying to say?
Well, I mean, I've seen people on forums over the years arguing, and when the big thing was, how much muscle can a natural, unassisted lifter put on over the course of a lifetime? And, when people say, well, up till now, and totally based on the limited information that we've had, no one's surpassed, a certain figure. And people would take it personally, like, yo, stop, you're limiting me. Yeah. Yeah, don't limit me, because if people think they can't put on more than 50 pounds of muscle, they're not going to train hard. Seriously? That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
Right. And
that is the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
Right. And whoever you are, my view is that being a natural guy and being a regular guy who just likes this hobby, even if I was assisted or not, if I was assisted, whatever natural status or assisted, I'm still going to try my best. I mean, what is there to do with this arguing about these arbitrary numbers of how much can I gain or what FMI I can reach. I believe that you should just try hard on whatever you're doing. Where you arrive, you arrive. Be methodical about it. Try to bring up your weak points and try to be the best bodybuilder that you can be if that's what you want to do with your little spare time. Mm-hmm. That's the end of it. Do you have anything to add to this question of this topic of resentment? What could be a take-home message, maybe?
Take-home message? Look, we've all heard the whole story with, sour grapes?
Yes.
And look, let's just face it. This is sour grapes extrapolated in many, many different directions. You have people that were drawn to this for whatever reason. They had in the back of their minds, no matter realistic or unrealistic expectations, when they weren't met, and they saw other people achieving things that they were unable to or unwilling to. There started to be a certain amount of resentment.
Right. And now I know we're going to wrap this up soon, actually. But one more topic I want to go over. Do you think if we could wrap this up in a reasonable amount of time, because it might be a topic for a whole other thing, because we've touched upon social media in previous episodes of the Mas Macros podcast.
Oh, we beat that.
Yes. Is that social media, is that the resentment of people who are doing well on social media with bodybuilding endeavors is that there's a resentment there as well, meaning that people are resenting the people who are profiting off of being an attractive bodybuilder online. I see that resentment as well. That they're going to resent someone like Mike O'Hearn, even though Mike O'Hearn does say a lot of ridiculous things about duck eggs, when I could go purchase duck eggs out east on the Eastern Long Island, for a few bucks. I don't have to purchase them at an expensive price. Or I think I saw quail eggs actually in Key Food the other day. Do you think that quail eggs are going to make me look like 10 years younger or something? Anyway, but there's a resentment there too. Even though someone like Michael Hearn says ridiculous things, I think there's a resentment, meaning that would some of these guys love to look like Michael Hearn and live the life that Michael Hearn
are we talking about regular people hating on Michael Hearn, or are we talking like
fitness celebrities?
Well, yeah, I was going to say, we also had, you want to talk resentment, a couple of, top Olympia competitors from the 90s.
Yes.
For being very, very vocal. Was it a year ago, 2 years ago?
Yes, yeah, I remember that.
Very vocal about, social media and, these people who develop followings, but they've accomplished nothing in the actual competitive side of the sport. They're not even bodybuilders. They're just good-looking people.
Right. Some of them might have done a show here and there, but they call themselves bodybuilders. They're part of the bodybuilding scene.
But that's the whole social media. Everything changed.
Yeah, like the Hodge twins, that other guy, Furious Pete, who people, line up to see at bodybuilding. They're at bodybuilding expos, though. They're at the same expo that the professional bodybuilder is at.
Yeah, and you know what? People show up just to see them.
But the thing is this, though, is that the people who bitch about them might think that this world is fair. This world is kind of unfair, and there's no written law saying that someone can't call themselves a bodybuilder. Yeah. There's no unwritten law that could, that's like...
Well, the bodybuilding police going to show up at your door?
Something that people just have to deal with. To be resentful of some other guy because he's profiting from his looks.
Well, dude, that's the thing, man. It's like, look, O'Hearn has been on magazines, 20, 30 years now.
He's been on the stage also, though, but...
Well, he's been on stage when he was like a teenager. I think he last competed as like a freaking teenager.
And he's guest posed and done the...
Yeah, he's never actually tried to turn pro. I don't
Exactly.
But let's face it. The guy's been on novel covers.
Yes.
I've seen
he's done many things
of them. It's like
movies, whatever.
Yeah. Now again, the guy's cashing out on his looks, and you get a lot of people that are jealous. Let's face it, they're jealous. Could we find things to be upset about? Yeah, O'Hearn makes a lot of crazy claims. O'Hearn claims all sorts of accomplishments that are totally unverifiable. But what you can't argue about is this guy obviously trains hard and has done so for decades.
Yeah, and
decades.
Yeah, and if also if nature's going to, if Mother Nature made the guy 6 foot plus and an attractive person, that's just the way that goes.
Yeah, good for him.
That's it. And I guess the take-home message here, now that we're going to be on our way out now, is that if you're going to get into this endeavor, whether you are going to be an IFBB pro or some amazing, internet celebrities such as Mike O'Hearn,
celery,
or I would reserve the word celery for the more resentful crowd.
It just makes me laugh way too much.
I know the celery. is that really do go into this with a healthy mindset. You can get a lot out of it. You'll meet very nice people who will maybe become long life friends. You might, love what you did with it. You might go look in a mirror. You might only compete once and say that was like the best thing I ever did. Well, one of the best things you ever did for yourself, outside of, let's say, I don't know, raising a kid or something, or meeting your wife or something like that. One of the more monumental things in your life, like running a marathon. And I think you should keep it positive. I mean,
winning a hot dog eating contest.
Yeah, if that's what's somewhat important to someone besides work, fine. But I don't think that anybody's...
Didn't Blaha eat like 50 pizzas?
Well, he did have a 20,000. I think that he had a 10 to 20,000 calorie refeed. He had a refeed while he was still.
I'm pretty sure he claimed he ate something like 30 or 50 pizzas when he was in high school.
Yeah, I don't know, but he had like a 10,000 calorie refeed while he was still 20% body fat. I don't know why there was a need for that.
But his videos are informative.
Yeah, they're informative. I don't know how they're informative. Dude, how much do you have to suffer to really need a refeed of that magnitude? So, I don't think that living a resentful life, I had resentment in my life when I was younger, and it's not really a good way to go through life. So keep it positive, and we look forward to being with you next time.
We're out.
See ya.